Our plan to snap photos of the thief in action was crushed like the door sensor, and our client looked more guilty every minute. But for the first time since taking this case, I was happy. Why are you smiling, Myron? Asked Principal Rayner. There is food everywhere, I said. We see that, Mr. Harple said. Poor Mr. V has to clean it all up again. I turned to Mr. V. But you haven't started cleaning yet, right? Mr. V shook his head. Haven't had time. I went to the roof when I got here this morning. The hole caused by the storm is still leaking. Perfect, I said. How is that perfect? Hurrah said. The snack snatcher struck again, but we have no photos and still no idea who is behind the messes. We have nothing. Wrong, I said. Finally, we have an untouched crime scene. The first 2 times the snack snatcher struck, I arrived at the crime scene after everyone had already walked through the evidence or started cleaning it up. This time it was untouched, a perfect mess, ready to be investigated. I stepped carefully into the kitchen. That's when I saw them. Tracks through the spilled pizza sauce. A little path of tiny footprints. They looked almost like little handprints, 4 fingers and a thumb with long nails. There were dozens of them. They went through the sauce, across the floor, and up the wall. They led to a small air vent high in the ceiling. A movement outside the window caught my eye. Hurrah stood beside me and I knew she had seen it too. She tugged on the hem of her jacket. Her brain worked through the same clues until her eyes lit up. Outside, she whispered, looking at me. I nodded, then turned to the others. Everyone, meet me outside. And Mr. V, could you bring your ladder, please? We gathered outside the school right in front of the kitchen window. Mr. V arrived with his ladder. Glitch looked through the glass into the kitchen. What's this all about, Myron? She said. The mess is inside, not out here. Very true, Glitch, I said. Hurrah stood by a bush near the little group of trees that ran along the side of the school. But the answer to the mystery is out here. Hurrah turned to the bush as if she was speaking to it. Isn't that right? Don't worry, I said to the bush. You can come out. We won't hurt them. You promise, said a voice from the other side of the branches. We promise, Hurrah said. Okay, said the voice. A red-faced and auburn-haired figure stood up from her hiding spot. Smasher, Mr. Harple said. Smasher stepped out of the bushes. She wore the same jacket as Glitch as she climbed over the hedge. I saw what was on the back, a red soccer ball that looked like a fireball. You stole the morning snacks, Principal Rayner said. No, I didn't, Smasher said. She's right, said Hurrah. Smasher isn't the snack snatcher. Principal Rayner let out a big sigh. Then who is? She asked. They are. I pointed to the roof near the kitchen. A plastic sheet covered the hole caused by the storm. A small head covered in brown fur with a large black patch over the eyes peered out from under the sheet. Smokey! Hurrah squealed. You're alive! 2 more fur heads poked out from under the sheet. And she's not alone, said Glitch. Principal Rayner, I said, meet the snack snatchers. All right, so let's fill in our chart real quick. All right. So we definitely have some stuff that we're going to add, right? So what did we just find out? Walter,
we found out that the raccoons were snack snatchers.
Oh, well, Walter, give me one.
So they went outside and then they looked in the bushes and then they saw Smasher and then they looked to the roof and Smokey was there. So Smokey was the snack snatcher.
They found Smasher in
I knew it.
the bushes. Okay. And then for my resolution, Smokey was the snatcher. Okay. So, okay, hold on. Now let's read chapter 12 because it may give us even more of a closing. Okay, or it may give us even more. The afternoon sun beamed down on the busy schoolyard around me. Every kid ran, chased, screamed, and enjoyed recess. Every kid except me, that is. Smasher McGlinton had to be cornered. Cameron and Carter kept a lookout. You think you're smart, don't you, detective? Smasher growled. You think you have me all figured out. No, not at all, I said. You're a very complex person. Who would have guessed that the meanest kid in school had a soft spot for a family of homeless raccoons? Once we had lured Smasher out of the bushes, she confessed to everybody. She arrived at school early on the first day. She saw Smokey, the raccoon, and her babies making the mess in the kitchen. The raccoons grabbed the morning snacks and dragged them into the air vent. They had been hiding there ever since the storm knocked down their tree in the schoolyard. Raccoons are nocturnal, so Smokey and her cubs slept in the roof during the day. They came out the next night and looked for more food in the kitchen. Smasher didn't tell anyone about the raccoons. She came by the kitchen in the morning before school to check they were okay. She was peeking through the window when Glitch took a photo of the kitchen the second time the raccoons made a mess. That's why we saw the bit of red hair in the photo. Then she spotted Glitch's motion sensor when she opened the kitchen door this morning. She reached around the doorway and knocked the sensor to the ground, wrecking it before the camera took any photos. And now she was going to wreck me because I had figured it all out. You're just a twerp, detective, she said. I warned you to stop snooping around. But it all worked out in the end, didn't it? I said. No one thinks you're the snack snatcher. In fact, Principal Rayner is impressed that you helped the raccoon. She said you have a kind heart. That made Smasher even more mad. Behind her, Cameron and Carter snickered. She glared at her goons. Their smiles vanished. Smasher turned back to me. You better not repeat those words to anyone else. Got it? I nodded real fast to show her I got it. This isn't over, Myron Matthews, she said. Keep me out of your mysteries. She turned to go. Her two snickering goons followed. Myron! Hurrah's head popped out from around the corner. There you are. I've been looking for you. Hurry up. You're going to miss the fun. Stand back, kids, Mr. Harple ushered us away from the tall oak tree on the far side of the schoolyard. Mr. V and a woman from the Animal Rescue Service placed a large cage at the foot of the tree. Smokey and her two babies peered out from behind the bars. They looked so scared. Hurrah said. They're just a little nervous, said the woman from the Animal Rescue Service. Her name was Melanie. She had helped Mr. B get Smokey and her babies down from the roof. They'll be fine once we get them to their new home. Glitch moved around to the other side of the tree with her camera. Everyone smile, she said as she snapped another photo. Ready? Mr. V asked. We all stood back and Melanie opened the cage door. Smokey came out first. Her cubs followed her. The mama raccoon sniffed her way to the tree and scrambled up the trunk. Her babies were right behind her. High above us, the raccoon family climbed along the branches. I think they like their new home, Hurrah said. It will be a new beginning for all of them, Mr. Harple smiled. I looked at all of us gathered around the tree, my new teacher and my new friends, and my first new mystery solved. A few days ago, I didn't like any of this new stuff, but I was wrong. New beginnings weren't so bad after all. All right. So let's go back to our plot mountain. So, Smokey was the snack snatcher. What else did they do? They gave Smokey a new
Home.
home, right? They gave Smokey a new place to live.
What was that new place?
A tree. They gave Smokey a new tree to live in. Okay, so I have a question, another question for you about the end. You ready? So at the end, Myron says something. He says, I learned something. So remember how, hold on. Remember how we talked about, okay, because we've talked about this before. Hold on, let me get a piece of paper or sticky note.
She likes new now.
Hold on. Don't say anything. So we talked about lesson learned, okay? So if you remember, lesson learned is when your character learns something. Your main character your main character learns something. It's usually some kind of lesson, some kind of really big takeaway. So in this story, what was the lesson? And I want you to actually, we'll type it in the chat first, and then we'll talk about it. What was the big lesson that Myron learned? What was Myron's takeaway? Myron learned blank. What did Myron learn? Type it in the chat first. What did Myron learn? He learned something. He learned something really important. What did he learn?
Laura, I think we should add Hurrah to the main characters because she kind of like helped Myron a lot in the story. So like without her in the story they wouldn't really found the snack.
Okay. Yeah, you are right. And based on the fact that I'm pretty sure my Hurrah is in all of the other 3 books, she probably is going to end up being considered a main character. But let's focus on this. Myron learned what? What did Myron learn? He learned something. What did he learn? Type in the chat. Myron learned. Only Walter, Holly, and Sarah know. Okay, now Isabella knows. Come on, we said it at the very end. He said it at the very end. He said something is not as bad as it seems. Something is not as bad as it might be. Tony, you're going to say it? Type in the chat first if you haven't already done it.
New.
Okay, hold on. Type in the chat. Type in the chat. Type in the chat. Type in the chat. All right, so I have, let's see. Myron, he needs help to solve a mystery. Myron learned that new can be fun. He learned that you can change and change to like new stuff. New things aren't that bad. New things are not that bad. New things can be good. He learned that school is not that bad. New is not that bad. Myron learned that new is not bad. New is not so bad after all. New things are not bad. Myron learned he figured out his first mystery. So the big thing that a lot of people said was Myron learned
Are you writing another one, Miss Tana?
new is not so bad after all, right?
But Daddy, he needs help to solve a mystery.
Well, but so look, I want you to look at the very end of this, okay? The very end of this book. He says, I think they'll like their new home. It will be a new beginning for all of them. And then Myron, so this is Myron talking. I looked at all of us gathered around the tree, my new teacher and my new friends, and my first new mystery solved. A few days ago, I didn't like any of this new stuff, but I was wrong. New beginnings weren't so bad after all. So his big lesson that he learned from all of this is that really new things, a new school, new places,
A new
they
mystery.
aren't as bad as he had originally made them out to be, right? So we could even say, so you could say it this way, or we could even say, Myron learned new places and new things are not so bad. Okay, so you could kind of say that, you could say it either way, but that was Myron's big takeaway that he learned from the story, was that he learned that, hey, you know what? New things are not that bad, really. Yes, it's hard, but they're really not that bad. So we were pretty close, right, on our suspects. So the only one that really wasn't involved was Glitch. But the book definitely set her up as somebody who could have been. But Smasher was technically involved, and so was Smokey. Or Smokey was the one that did it. But then Smasher was definitely involved as well. So we were pretty close on our suspect list on who we thought had done it. All right. So here's what we're going to do for our independent practice today. So you are going to read your mystery. You can either read, so here's the deal. A lot of you have told me that you're not huge fans of your mystery books, so we picked, and that's fine, okay? So if you would like to read just a mystery on Epic, I am okay with that. But I would like for you to try and read a mystery on Epic, okay? It can be anything that you want as long as it's a mystery.
Well, like we did, like in the first day that we learned mystery.
Yeah, kind of like the first day we learned lit mystery. As long as it's a mystery, you can pick a different book, but it has to be a mystery. So type mystery into the on Epic, and it should pull up all the different mysteries you can choose from. What I want you to do is, as you're reading it, okay, I want you to be doing what we did with our Plot Mountain. Okay, you're writing down the hook, the character, setting, problem. I want you to start really getting used to keeping track of a story. The reason that I want you to do this is because whenever we are reading, okay, even when it's a passage, so kind of like what we read yesterday, the mystery we read yesterday about the North Pole Police, and then Santa's scratch sleigh, you want to really try and keep track of your story while you're reading it, because it will help you. It will help you to have a better understanding of what you've read. If you don't keep track of it like we've done here, then your story can get really, really confusing. It's easier to keep track of the story while you're reading it than to try and go back and to do it later. Because did you notice after every chapter I read, what did I do? What did I do after every chapter we read?
Right on the plot mountain.
I wrote on the plot mountain. I wrote something down. I wrote down characters, setting. I wrote down some kind of important event. I wrote something down that was important to the story. So we really have to make sure that we're keeping track of our stories and that we're not just reading to read. Because you're not really going to be getting anything out of that if we're just reading to read. So you've got to make sure you're keeping track of your story. Okay? Okay, so